CSUEA. So before we dive in, I'm going to shoot it over to Simone, who's going to talk a little bit about the CSUEA.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for showing up. We really appreciate it. The CSUEA, or the CSU Entertainment Alliance, connects students from all 23 campuses of the Cal State University system to vital resources, internships, jobs, industry relationships. We also, on the other side, offer industry a direct talent pipeline. That's all of you from the nation's largest, most diverse university system really in the country. So it's all about you. We create opportunities to help you best go from campus to career, and we want to help you do that. And that's why we've partnered with Pipelines. You really should check out their app to get industry leaders like our panel today. Several of them are Cal State alumni like you are, working in the industry. We want to hear from them how they got where they are, what they do, and how you can do what they do. Today, we're focusing on the visual arts. We've had panels about esports and gaming, and general panels with talent recruiters about what they're looking for from all different aspects of the industry. The point is, if you want to work in entertainment, arts, and media, you don't necessarily have to be creative, though many of you today are. You can work on the business side. You can do PR and marketing. They need every kind of skill set that everybody has, especially in our system. We are so interdisciplinary. So check out what we do at csuentertainment.com. Look at our internship program. It's super accessible. We have free resources for you, like a one-year masterclass subscription for free. So many cool things. csuentertainment.com. We'll put it in the chat. And thanks again. I'm going to send it back to Shari. And thanks to our panel today. We really appreciate your time and generosity of spirit and talent.
Thank you so much, Simone. So while we're talking about resources, I do want to stress that PipelinesMobile is available in the App Store. We'll put that information in the chat for you. And also, just to announce that one of our partners is called Move Together, and it's a brand new immersive program that we'll also throw in the chat that's focused on design and animation and digital media. It's launching in March 2021, and they're accepting a cohort of 25 aspiring diverse designers, digital media storytellers, and animators. So if you're interested in this, I will put information in the chat. I have the shirt on today, and I encourage you to go follow our Instagram. It's MOV Together, like the file, MOV Together on IG. So the purpose, you probably wondering why we're here today. So like Simone said, we really wanted to create an opportunity for students like you to learn more about industries where there's not a lot of programming or education surrounding it. So if you are an aspiring designer, animator, or visual artist, we want you to hear the stories of people who are doing the work, who are thriving in their industries, and give you a chance to hear how they got here, what you should be doing to prepare for a career in these respective fields. So without further ado, no one can introduce themselves like you. So I want each panel just to introduce themselves, their company, what type of artists they are, and what they do. So we'll start with Abelle.
Oh, hi, I'm Abelle Hayford. I'm a background painter at Warner Bros. Animation. But I also do freelance and editorial, other studios too. Yeah, I just recently graduated from the Maryland Institute College of Arts. So but started working full-time last month. And in the meanwhile, I've been doing like freelance. Originally, I was looking for a career in color design or character design, but then I got hit up with a background painter position at Warner Bros., which was like really nice, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. And besides that, I also am the head organizer of Drawn While Black, which is a hashtag / directory focused on Black creatives.
All right, thank you, Abelle. Flora.
Hi everyone, my name is Flora Rees-Arredondo. I am currently working as a concept artist at FS Studio and VR Games. And I also do a lot of freelance in animation. I'm a freelance production designer, biz dev artist at the nonprofit Color of Change. And I just graduated from San Jose State's animation illustration program. Very proud Shrunken Headman. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I also create a lot of indie films in my own time. I just created Marinchista, which is currently going through the festival circuit.
Perfect. Wendell.
Hi guys, I'm Wendell Dalit. I'm a visual development artist and art director at Sony Pictures Animation. I'm also a San Jose State alum, so Shrunken Headman representing. And yeah, I've worked at Sony since 2014 on Smurfs, Emoji Movie, Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, and several of the other unannounced projects. And I've also done some comic book covers, so that's it.
Thank you. Jamaal.
Hey everyone, I'm Jamaal Bradley, currently at Valve Software, former DreamWorks supervising animator. I've been at Disney, Sony ImageWorks, been around, been in games, 20 years in the industry. Recently, last year, finished my short film Substance, which did the festival circuit. We put up for Academy, didn't get paid for the Academy, but I just did that little stint. Yeah, but I've been going at this for a little while now. I went to school at Hampton University undergrad, graduate school at SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, and came to California. My first job was in video games. So I'm sure we can talk more later about that. But yeah, currently at Valve, back in games and doing it up.
And last but not least, Kano.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Kano, obviously, just said. But yeah, I'm also like Jamaal. I've been in the game for a minute now, pretty much 20 years. I'm a little bit of a throwback. Started my career at MTV Animation on a show called Daria way back in the days. And I've been working in TV for the last 20 years, building my own brand for the last 10. When I'm not in animation studios, I'm designing toys, I'm painting murals, and living that art life. Currently, I jump between Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers, basically why I moved out to California 10 years ago, and that's pretty much it. This is my own little studio where I do all my work, separate from home, just my own little, my spot. And that's about it. Just here to share the knowledge.
Thank you so much, Kano. I told you this panel was so dope. I'm so excited. So before we get to the conversation, I forgot to mention a few house rules. Notifications, this goes without saying. Cell phones, email notifications, Slack, etc. If you can please mute them out of respect for our panelists, please do that right now so we're not having a whole slew of alerts going off during the conversation, because I really want you to hear what they have to say. And then secondly, for Q&A, we're gonna do Q&A just a little differently. This is not a webinar intentionally. So at the end, I will open the floor for Q&A and you will message me privately with your questions. So again, please do not ask questions throughout the conversation. If you have questions, please write them down and save them for the end. If you put them in the chat during the conversation, I won't get to them. So I'll let you know when the floor is open for questions and you will message me privately with your questions, okay? So let's dive right in. So obviously a big reason why we're here today is because I'm sure a lot of aspiring artists are wondering, how did you get here? Like, how did you get where you are today? So I want to start with the origin story. Like, what was your first creative role? When did you know this is what I want to do? Like, I belong
here. Are you going to call out names?
Popcorn time. Jump in. Did any of you have a first job?
my first job was at the Cartoon Network. I was doing, that's like way back in Atlanta. I was just doing bumpers for, it's 2D animation, doing bumpers for the Cartoon Network where the character would run by and clouds would pop up and give you the timestamp. But that's, I mean, as far as knowing that I wanted to do this for a living, it probably came like in my end of my sophomore year in undergrad, because I was going to school for business. So my mind just kind of switched on wanting to do something I was going to be happy with for the rest of my life. So, and my school wasn't technically an art school. It had an art department, but it was historically Black college. And yeah, so I think it was just that epiphany of like, you know what, if I'm going to try to do something, I'm going to do something I'm going to be happy with. You know, you might get that, many of you probably get that look from your parents, maybe, like that sideways, like art. If they support you, it's not too much pushback, but they kind of give you that sideways view of like, all right, you got to prove what you're going to do with this degree. So anyway, let's about talk.
Yeah, I think my story is pretty similar to Jamal's. It wasn't until my sophomore, junior year in high school, I mean in college, where I was like, okay, I'm going to really pursue. Oh, I'm sorry, really pursue this art thing. Because I've always been a creative, even from like a really young age, but it wasn't something that I thought I'd, actively want to pursue as a career. I didn't even realize there was an outlet for that professionally. And I did get a lot of pushback from, my parents, my dad really wanting me to be an engineer or something. But yeah, I made a conscious choice in college to say, hey, I don't want to spend my life doing something I don't want to do. This is something I'm good at. And once I discovered there is a career path, I kind of went 100% with it. And that's how I got to where I'm at now.
I think for me, I kind of always knew I wanted to be an artist, specifically working in the animation industry, since I was like a baby and stuff. So like I knew what I wanted to do, and my parents kind of had to accept that at an early age. Because like once I had my mind set on something, I was like, I'm just gonna go full force. I actually got my first like creative job when I was like 16. I was like freelancing for this online shop, and they wanted me to illustrate like characters for their Holy line and stuff. So like that was like my first like freelance experience, for like first animation gig. I actually so like my senior year of high school, I applied to this honorship at Warner Brothers, which allowed me to have like a 4-year internship throughout my college career. So and I virtually got it. So every year for like every summer, each year for college, I went and was a production intern at like an animation animation productions at Warner Brothers. And I think my last year, because I was like, I think I kind of proved myself, they let me become an art intern, which allowed me to work on some like color design and character design on Thundercats War. So yeah.
Very cool. So a lot of, obviously the majority of the attendees on this call are in college. So let's say they have little to no experience. The desire is there, the passion is there. Maybe they have some side indie projects. What are some resources, or if they have little to no work experience in this field, what advice can you give them to tap resources that they can tap into, or tools they should be using? Or what could they be doing now to prepare for this type of career? Because it can feel really daunting not knowing where to start, like knowing that this is what you want to do, having nothing to plug into, and especially with COVID. So in your professional opinion, what could they be doing right now to make sure they're preparing themselves in the best, most possible way to prepare for a career?
So me personally, and I thought about this many times. I've given talks to a lot of people, and I know that there is frustration on like, I want to get into a studio. And for me, starting now, to me, the biggest thing, and I want to actually teach myself Blender, because to me, that's the biggest community right now, to where it's free, all the assets and tools and everything for you. As far as animation goes in the 3D setting, as far as drawing and concept art, you can do that. There's nothing stopping you from doing that in your own time. God, like Pinterest is like, there's so much stuff out there that you can milk, and just like the things you guys have access to that I didn't, like Blender, Pinterest, like all the anatomy stuff that I've saved on Pinterest, like from Japan and Korea, France, and the community for Unity as well. It's like, wow, okay, so I could actually go and create my own production with a small team to figure out how I want to be integrated in a studio, if I even have to go to a studio. Because working at Valve, we actually see a lot of these indie games, and these things generate money, right? Because guys just like, you know what? I'm going to garage with my friends. We're going to go to Unity. We're going to make a pocket game. Because once you can download Blender for free, you can export from Blender. Blender now has resources for Unity. The world is open to you. All the animation tutorials and resources on YouTube. And I've saved some of these clips myself, free software. So right now, to me, it's basically building up this catalog of resources for yourself, and then deep diving into the communities that are there between Blender, Unity, even Unreal. So to me, that's what I would be doing right now.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, I think it would be important to just, surround yourself with people who have the same goals as you, whether that's, you know, to be a biz dev artist and working in animation, or to be an animator working in games, or just, and just share those resources with each other. Because, you know, I think, you know, building up a community of like-minded people is really what helped pivot me to where I needed to go.
I'm going to chime in real quick. I agree with Jamaal and I agree with Wendell. I just want to add like a different kind of like perspective to it. If you are in school right now, looking to come out into the industry, this downtime is sort of like, to keep it 100, it's like a profession. It's like you guys have a little bit of an advantage for some perspective. It's a perspective that some career professionals don't get till they're 10 years into a studio. And the fact is that even if you make it into a studio, one day, like you're saying right now, some people aren't working. So just because you make it in doesn't mean that you stay in, right? So it's an important time to put some value on yourself as an artist and build something for yourself also. I mean, if you're a freelance artist like I am, I've been in and out of studios for the last 20 years. And if you move coast, like from New York to California, you have to start that from the beginning. It's like you have to start with a whole new resume. You have to introduce yourself. So that grind and that hustle never ends. It's always going to be there, pandemic or not, you know what I mean? But the fact is, like, you're going to have jobs where everyone gets laid off, and you have to have a value for yourself as an artist in order to keep moving ahead. So as much as you're investing in the programs and your art right now, also invest in your own value as an individual and as an artist, because those are the things that keep you going forward, so that you're like 20 years in later and still doing this. Because it's not all going to be gravy. It's going to go, you're going to be unemployed sometimes for a chunk of time, and you're going to think career change maybe, but you know, those who stick with it get the rewards later. So it's not always like a sweet ride, you know what I mean? It's always, you're constantly, it's a roller coaster, and you have to emotionally be built for it.
Yeah, going off of what was said, what I learned really quickly, I just graduated this May, is that there is no job in this industry, whether you're in animation, feature, TV, video games, or just like freelance contracts, where you get into a job and you stay there for 40 years until you retire. We're all kind of nomads, so you want to constantly that community. Yeah, so it sounds not fun, but every time you get a new job, you're thinking, okay, where's my next job going to be, almost. So it's really important to keep talking to people, be a nice person, and do what you all are doing here. Go to all the online events. It's so important. Go to DesignerCon this weekend. CTNX is free this year. I think it's next week. There's a lot of online festivals you can go to, and some of them are really cheap. So definitely keep up those resources, keep investing in your skills, and talk to a lot of people, because there's always the next job. You just gotta keep hustling.
Right, because that's, I mean, just to what Flora and were saying, by looking at that stuff that I was saying that's online and available to you in these communities, that is taking stock in yourself. Because if you depend on the studio, right, and never keep investing in yourself, and that's one of the things I always say, even when you get out, you got to keep doing the same thing that got you into the school. It's like you got to keep, even if you're not working, you got to keep spending hours in your after hours, if you are working a different job, to actually put stuff into your own content. And studios, I mean, if you do want to go to the studio, they're going to recognize that, like, wow, you actually are doing stuff outside of what we do. It's like, yeah, I have my own vision. I have my own voice. So
I love this so much. So this is like a perfect segue to the next question, because we intentionally diversified this panel with those who are experienced in freelancing, those who just graduated, who are a little further into their careers, because I do think it's important, like knowledge really is power. And I think right now, because a lot of you are in college still, you probably don't, I'm just gonna assume a lot of you don't even know the various different types of visual artists that are out there. And I think it's really important for you to understand the many career paths that are available to you in this field. So if each of you could just, because you all are diversified and come from different backgrounds, if you can just explain a little bit about your particular role and then other roles that might be available at your company, so they understand that it's not so black and white. Like, you can do a whole range of things depending on where your interests lie in visual arts. So again, if you could just explain what you do, what your role entails, and the different types of roles that are available at your company, just so they have an idea of what they should be preparing for or what they should be pursuing when they graduate.
I guess for me, so being a background painter, I'm responsible for just painting the BG designers, ad sets and like coloring, making sure that because usually it's like an art director, but for me, it's like my showrunner is my art director, so like taking his notes and like seeing what he wants the painting direction and color direction to be. But I think like a position, not below, but it's like a junior position as a color designer. That's what I intentionally was looking for, which is just coloring props, characters, sometimes effects for TV production. Previous fours, so like usually when I'm doing freelance, usually for development, so like I'm doing like character design, which is not really like the pipeline character design, mostly like character exploration. So I'm like sending in like sketches or like development of characters for pitches or like shows currently being developed. And yeah, I think like and like if you're looking for an internship, usually like with internships you're not allowed to do art. So like production, production entails just like working with the production team, figuring out like organization, figuring out like the file setup, also organizing meetings and stuff. So yeah, I think like if like I guess I went in a more like step-by-step way of like getting into industry. I was a production intern, art intern, freelance for color design, and then became a BG painter.
For me, I've only worked freelancing contracts since I graduated. And just to explain the difference between freelance, contract, and full-time, basically freelance and contracts, you pay your own taxes, so you're not in their payroll and you don't get any benefits. But it is a lot more flexible. So it depends on your workflow, whether you like full-time or contract freelance better. What I like is that I get to work on a lot of different projects with a lot of different people. Every project is so different, and I can jump between animation, illustration, and video games. So you don't have to keep to just TV, just feature, just games, and really balancing your time, because every freelance job, you don't know exactly how intense it's going to be necessarily. So you may have days of nothing, a month of nothing, and then just have all the projects at once the next month. So it just really depends on your workflow.
I'm a character designer, and I've done several different things in my career, from storyboards to character designs to animation. Sometimes the industry dictates what my next move is. For example, when I started, I just wanted to be an animator. It was the 90s, and it was the late 90s, and I just wanted to be a traditional animator. Working in New York, all of that stuff got outsourced pretty soon. So I had to shift and pivot to storyboards. And I did storyboards for a little while, and then I went to character design, and that's where I'm at now. So as a studio setup, I work in TV. So if you want to do character designs on a show, sometimes there's only like 2 character design spots. Sometimes those go to veterans, so sometimes you're competing with somebody like myself or somebody who has more experience. So they're tough to break into sometimes. If you're a storyboard artist, there's always work for storyboard. No matter, like the jobs that stay here are like character designs. In terms of TV, character designs, storyboard, digital ink and paint, design in general. Animation, unfortunately, gets outsourced, unless there's like a retake department where you get to fix up animation that the over studio gets wrong. That's when you get to animate a little bit. But if you're a storyboard artist, you're usually never out of work. They're like everywhere, like everyone's using them. Character designers is a little tougher. You'll have some dry spots. You'll miss the wave. You'll miss a new show, and then you'll have to wait a little while till a new show comes up. Yeah, the character design position is pretty simple for me. I meet with the director in the beginning of the week. We go over the animatics. We see all the new characters that need to be designed. I get my list breakdown for the end of the week. And then, yeah, that's basically my homework. I get that done by the end of the week.
And as an art director, I've worked with several of the different artistic roles in feature film. So we've worked with character designers, visual development artists, all the 3D development people. But then even within visual development, there are different specialties that you can take. So it just depends on what your skill set is. So there are people who are more design focused, who just kind of work in black and white and work on the environment design, background design. And then there are visual development artists who are more skilled in color and light. So they do a lot more of the painting and the lighting of a scene. Yeah, there's several different, because making a feature film, not everyone can, not one person can just do everything. It kind of requires a lot of different specialties of people coming together to make, you know, something special. So there's a lot of roles out there.
Yeah, as far as my day-to-day, Valve is an interesting place because we try to hire people. And if you ever seen the Valve handbook, it's the T pose, right? It's either you're strong in one T or you're strong in this one. And they like people that kind of have strengths in both. So I am an animator, usually day-to-day, I'm always animating, probably. But I do actually contribute to the design meetings. So my work is very bound to what the design calls for. So even though I may have some crazy cool idea, which I was just actually working on, trying to blueprint something for a character that's supposed to be coming in, I'm trying to scope that around everything we've been doing within the playtest, trying to figure out how each of the other characters move, so that dictates how this new one will move. How would this one differentiate between all the others, and what's going to make you feel excited when you play it? It's similar to, and we just come finish off Half-Life VR, Half-Life Alyx, and even then I'm doing mocap. I'm in the suit. On other projects I left when I was at Valve before. I was at Valve before, left, went back to feature, went back to Valve. And even then, at that time, when we did Left 4 Dead, I was directing the mocap sessions with a few of my colleagues. So that was more, okay, now I'm in a directing role of like, okay, here's the list of motion capture we need to get. We go down to House of Moves and we lay out everything from our spreadsheets to hit everything. For Half-Life Alyx, I'm actually in the suit. Some stuff was hand keyed, some stuff was mocap. Most of it was mocap, just based on how we wanted things to look. And that's similar to DreamWorks when I was supervising Animator. The day-to-day is, as a supervisor, I'm going through shots, assigning shots. Before we even get the shots, we're in pre-production. So I'm talking to the riggers, the modelers. I'm drawing over face shapes. Trying to make sure the muscles are all working. So this is a little bit of back and forth. And that's a super small team that you're working with. You actually kind of, maybe just me, the animation director, the model, the rigger. So we're really in this small scope of people trying to figure out how these characters are going to look, move, and be within the film. So again, back to Valve, you gotta have everything from, there's business, there's lawyers, there's Steam, people that are working in Steam, actually making sure our accounts and clients and customers are happy. And your job as an artist, yeah, you'll be, again, everything's going to be dictated by how the game is being designed, how your work is going to look. So it's not like a free fall where you're like, you can throw out a bunch of concepts, I can do a bunch of animation concepts, but we have to whittle it down to something that the consumer's going to want. And with Valve, it's pretty product focused. So it's a weird place in that not everyone gets into the company, only because when you work in such a specialized area like feature film, and even game studios now are starting to become even specialized, where this guy's just doing reload animation. This guy, he only does the run. This guy only does the creature stuff. To where Valve, you have to look at everything. It's like, I can't just make a cool animation. The animation needs to actually support the product. How does the consumer take what I'm making in and look at everything as a whole? So for example, like, I don't know if you guys know Counter-Strike, CSGO. the customer is super picky. They know that game inside and out. The reloads, the way the bullets come out. So if we change anything, they will have a fit. They will just be like up in arms, like, what are you doing? So all of that stuff is taken into account when we are making all of our content. The customer comes first. So the day-to-day at Valve is a little bit more, you feel like you're more ingrained into the company, whereas like in features, like, yeah, I'm an animator, make my animation look good for the director, make these characters feel great and the character assigned, and make sure that the team I'm putting the animation work out to is doing what the director wants, because if it doesn't, it's going to come back to me. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same. You're juggling those same hats, like from a supervisor role in animation to what we do at Valve. You're kind of taking in all these, the incline and feature is the director, right? He's the one is going to be looking at what the consumer is going to see. And at Valve, everybody in the company is looking at the outside consumer, people that's outside the company who's going to be taking in the content. So.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. And before I ask this next question, I just want to notify you all that towards the end, our panelists will be showing samples of their work. So just make sure you hang tight, and we're going to have just a really cool segment for them to be able to show you some of the projects that they've worked on. So make sure you stick around for that. So I think Flora kind of mentioned this a little bit, but I think it's really important to focus on a little bit is the freelance culture, right? Like we live in LA, a lot of creative entertainment roles are freelance. Some people are freelancers. That's what they do and they prefer it. But is there, we talked about the differences, but is there a benefit from being a freelance artist versus working for a studio or a company? And like, should they start off as freelancers? Should their goal be to work for a company? Is it circumstantial? What kind of advice can you give them as they're formulating their career and thinking about what they want to do?
I'm sort of like an in-between, I guess, because I'm sort of I guess you would call it like a permalance type thing, where like I freelance for studios, but I'm in-house and I'm connected through a union, so I get health insurance. But when a project's over, I'm out of there. So, you know, it's just like work for hire type of thing. But that's as permanent as that's as permanent as I've ever gotten. I've never been an in-house person anywhere, but I do know friends that work at Hasbro and they are full-time like employees there. They cannot freelance for other companies or design on the side. Like if they want to do stuff for another toy company or anything, they wouldn't be able to do that. Where permalance or freelance, you can do that. It frees you up. Where you can, it depends what you want, you know what I mean? Sometimes for me, being at a place for a long time doesn't benefit my freelance lifestyle, because when I'm at a place for a long time, the world changes around you, and that studio is used to doing something based on the moment you went in there sometimes. So if you're working on a show that's like goes for 5 years, for example, in the early 2000s, I was working on Kids Next Door. We did everything. We did all the storyboards on paper. That show lasted for like 4 seasons. When we finished that show, everybody was doing stuff in Flash, After Effects, Cintiqs. Nobody was using paper anymore. If I hadn't been freelancing during that time and learning those things, I wouldn't have been able to pivot, you know, but there were a lot of people who couldn't pivot and took like about a year to learn programs and learn the computer and learn stuff like that. So sometimes, in my experience, I'm a little hesitant to take jobs that I can't move. You know, it doesn't allow me to make moves while I'm working there. But, you know, I'm also haven't been a person who's been at a job for a long, like some of those jobs are really long. So it's awesome to be able to like just make plans for the future. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's my experience. For me, freelance and permalance works better for me as a creative.
Yeah, if I could add on to the benefits of freelance, and just to add on to that, contract is basically longer term freelance, and you sign a contract versus freelance. Sometimes you don't. It's maybe like a couple days project. And for me, a lot of students ask whether they should specialize or learn everything or just one topic. Like before, I really wanted to go into TV animation, so I just did mostly backgrounds. But because of the program at San Jose State, I learned animation, character design, props, little bit of everything. And because of that, I can take on a lot more jobs in freelance and contracts. So even though I went out being, okay, I graduated, I want to just paint and just do color. And then now I'm doing everything from character design to props to production design and more environment design. I found I really like it. So it really depends, like Kano was saying, that what you want to get out of it. If you want to do a little bit of everything, and you can also pick and choose your projects a lot more. Most of the projects I worked on this year, I strongly believe in, and I'll talk about this more at the end, but my goal in life is to use art as a form of social activism and to help raise voices that aren't heard a lot in media and have more diversity in animation. And I find I can do that a lot better with freelance because a lot more indie projects are doing that to a higher degree than major studios, just because it takes time for the tiller to move at major studios, but indie projects, like, they can just go, like, they're already doing it. So those are some benefits to freelancing contract.
I'm also in like a weird in-between where I'm also freelancing, but also working full-time. But before, I just been full-time freelance, which for me, I prefer working full-time because I think like, because of my ADHD, I need kind of have that structure. But my experience, I've been working freelance since like since high school, but technically steady college. So it's like I've been working, but I actually was an illustration major, so a lot of my freelance experience was in illustration. So like which is like kind of like a weird thing because like, oh, I want to go into animation, but like I'm only getting illustration work. But like when I started to like apply my skills, like book, like what I have done for like, book illustration and editorial, like I think as a designer, like a lot of like art directors, like, oh, this person knows how to use colors, this person knows how to use design to like really amplify the story. So it's like it was nice to have like experience in other industries to like basically get to where I am. Yeah, I think for me, I think it's nice to have experience in freelance. So when I do get like quote unquote laid off, because that's coming soon, like I have some type of security. And I think if you are starting off, especially if you're graduating college, it's nice to start doing freelance because at least it has like some weight, some experience when people do contact you for full time.
Cool. So I mean, as we're talking about, you know, the job, and as we're starting to think about a career in visual art, I want to talk about the rewards, because every job has pros and cons, right? And I think it's important to understand the challenges that come along with this work as well. So can we talk about what are the rewards or the perks of working in this industry, but what are some real challenges that they should be prepared for?
If I could start, I would say a lot of students I talk to or ask for advice, they are very much in the mindset of Pixar or Disney do or die. And there's so many more jobs out there, and it's really, really hard to get that job right out of school or before graduating. I do know some people, like one good friend of mine, she got into Pixar her third year of college and she dropped out and now she's working there, which is awesome, but that doesn't happen that frequently. So I would say be prepared to work some jobs you don't love at first, because you got to pay rent and you got to pay the bills, and then slowly your experience will grow, and as you continue to build your community, it'd be easier to find more jobs that you love. And kind of like people were saying earlier, if you do more personal art and work that you really believe in, other people will resonate with that, and you'll get jobs that are more aligned to the work you want to create, which is why I like making indie films and my own projects.
She hit it on the head. Don't put yourself in a box. Do not say, oh, I have to work at Pixar or Disney. If you love this thing, if you love animation, if you love art, you love storytelling, whatever it is that in this interactive media realm, take the job. I mean, for real, because there's nothing better to get paid to do artwork. I mean, I was at SCAD going like my run was like, okay, if I got to go back to school to learn how to use the computer, I went to SCAD. I'm like, well, I'm in there going for my master's. I didn't know what I was going to do with my master's. Like, I'm going to teach. I got a job offer like pretty close to finishing grad school. The teacher said, take the job. It was a startup game company. I was like, I'm out, I'm bounced. I'm tired of living off of Dorito sandwiches, pretzel sandwiches, whatever it is. Just like Flora said, it's like, gotta eat and you're getting paid to animate. So I was like, and that's always been my mantra. Like, I'm like, if I can get paid to animate, what's better than that? If I can get paid to draw, I don't care where I'm working. And the mindset then at that time was, and it's probably how I've always been, is I keep doing the same thing that got me to that point. Because the way I got hired, a guy in my class saw me working. I didn't even know him. He called me from California and said, hey, do you want a job coming out here? I'm like, all right, come on out here to California. I bounced, went out there. And my thing has always been, do the thing that got you to where you are. I always worked off hours. I was working, when I was in grad school, I was working at the Gap as a manager, and I would come home late at night and I would still do my artwork. To this day, every time I worked at Disney, I went home and worked on my own stuff. Worked at Sony, I went home and worked on my own stuff. DreamWorks, my own stuff. Always, because that's the thing that kept me going. Because that getting comfortable is my fear of like, oh, I got a job. I can go and hang out and eat sushi and that can come anytime. It's like, to me, it's like getting to that point where it's like, if I don't express my own ideas and keep that fire, I got this fear that'll be taken from me. That's the thing. It's like, oh, that fear of losing something that I put so much time into getting. Like, do the thing that got you to that point. Yeah, do not put yourself in a box of like, I have to go to Pixar or Disney.
Yeah, and like just being back on that, like I tried to eliminate the idea of having a dream job because I have been offered positions to like dream productions, but they all either went through or there's been an incident where I tried to advocate for myself and that was basically frowned upon. And I think when you are starting out, you're kind of expected to kind of just take whatever's given to you. And it's like, yes, like you need that job, but also it's like, don't sell yourself short. Like if you, especially if it's like for a union studio, don't allow studios, basically like don't let, studios are not your friends. So you need to learn how to advocate for yourself. So like other people can learn how to advocate for themselves too. Like, that's why it's good to understand if you are working in animation in the TV pipeline, you need to understand what the union, the guild is, and understand like what your rights as an artist is, because I think a lot of studios like unfortunately do take advantage of like younger students or people trying to break in, and because of that, they will kind of do what it takes to like pay you less or like basically not let you basically like, yeah, advocate for yourself. I think that was like one thing I definitely had to learn early on, even as an intern, and like I was really appreciative people who I worked with who gave me that advice to like understand like my value as an artist. And I think also too like it is sometimes like in that first job like it's so I had like at least like 5-10 job offers that I thought were leading to something, but it all end up being ghosted. So it's like don't always put all your eggs in one basket. Like make sure like keep like if you keep like have your hopes up, but also like be realistic and be like, oh, if this doesn't fall through, like what else can I go? What other directions can I go in?
I'm gonna I just want to like add my 2 cents to that. Also, the pros and cons, right? Going back to like just trying to the pro of it is, I mean, let's keep it real, man. Like this talent that you have, this ability to draw, right? It's like your ticket to living a different kind of life. That's not just your regular average. You know, to get paid for drawing is like a special thing. It's like, if you can make a living from it, it's awesome. I mean, it's what we all want, right? So it's your ticket to that. And it's up to you if you want to use it correctly, right? It takes a lot of loyalty it takes a lot of loyalty in your own art and your own ability to make that happen, right? Now, the cons of this industry are that, and you'll find this out very soon, it's not always your talent that gets you hired. Sometimes it's very political. And you still have to stick with it, man, because it's like sometimes you're going to be the one hooking up your homie in a position. You know, sometimes when you know somebody, you're like, yo, they weren't even that good, but they got that gig. That's whack. But that's because that person maybe laid some groundwork in their internship. You know, sometimes when you take a test to get a job, everyone's test at a certain point looks all the same. And it takes one director or a producer to come in and be like, that guy interned for us like last year. Let's look out for him. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's how you get a break. It's not always like the cream of the crop guy that gets it. You know, sometimes it's like the reliable person, the person you know is going to deliver at the end of the game. You know what I mean? It's like the person who puts in the more than 40 hours a week that is going to get the job done. Will get it above the rock star. You know what I mean? So that's just the reality of some of it. It's not always about your talent. So, and that you'll learn when you get into the industry, you'll learn about that. But yeah, I mean, the pros of it is like, yo, you stay loyal to your art form, you put in the work, you'll be surprised how fast time goes by, man. Before you know it, you're 10 years in and you have a resume, you know, that you're proud of. You will not be proud of that resume when you first start, and you shouldn't say no to any job. There's a saying that says you should say yes to everything when you start. To a certain point, you can start saying no. And then at that point, you can start saying no to everything because you have the experience, right? So first opportunity you get to get into a small studio, it's good to have those experiences at a small studio. Maybe you get paid crap. Maybe you don't get treated right, but you have to put in that time in those little studios that gave you the opportunity so that you can be able to appreciate when you get that job at Pixar, get that job at Disney. Sometimes there's internet rock stars that get the job at Disney or Warner Brothers and they botch it. They mess it up because they don't know how good they have it. They don't know, they can't take direction. They don't know how to take notes because no one's ever told them how to take notes before. So everything is part of your journey. Like there are no losses, you know, you learn from everything, you know, and it is important to have those dreams. If you dream of working at Pixar or Star Wars or whatever is your childhood dream, it doesn't mean that your career starts with that, but you should always keep that as your end goal to make you work harder. Maybe you worked on a show that you hate. I've been there and you're not proud of it, but like you still have that dream in your head that this is my ultimate goal. You know, we're on our way. This isn't the destination, right? So that's important. That's all.
And your dream is always going to change, right?
Yeah.
You might get to that dream job. It's like, man, this is not what I thought.
Exactly. Yep.
You get into Pixar and be like, wait a minute, this is not what I saw was happening for myself.
Yeah.
Right? And truth be told, I got a friend that's there. I don't know if he still feels this way. A few years into when he got there, he was like, man, the best shots I've done, Jamaal, was still when I was at Sony. And he was at that time he was at Pixar for like 5 years. I'm like, what? He still looked back like because it's already set where they have people in place doing these key shots and you have to work your way up to it. Whereas he was at Sony and he was the man, right? So it's like the dream is different. The dream evolves, and what you may think is what you want is going to change. And that's just life in general, really.
Oh, also going back to like, you know, taking that job that's like at a small studio that's not so known or that nobody knows and it pays crappy. In my experience, sometimes the people you meet at those crappy studios are the people who end up being directors later at a bigger studio and pulling your name out like, oh, I remember that guy. Let's hook him up. Or you might be that person. You know what I mean? So like everybody, you know, once you're like later on in your career, you'll see where everyone started and be like, wow, I'm glad I got to meet that person. You know what I mean? Like there's always some kind of optimistic way of looking at it. It's not all an L. You're not taking a loss on it. You know, you're young and you have nothing on your resume. So you just got to build your resume up to the point where like you start seeing those studios that you're proud of on your resume and you could just start deleting the ones you hated. You know what I mean? And that's how you build it up.
I love this so much. So when we're talking about your work, and this answer is gonna vary, what are your 3 must-haves when it comes to software, gadgets, equipment? What is like, I have to have these 3 things for me to do my best work?
I have to have coffee. That's
there you go, some coffee.
I got my bench press right behind this computer. That's another must. And then my Cintiq. I gotta have the Cintiq. I mean, I love drawing on paper, but like the type of work that I do, there's constantly notes. I'm constantly having to make revisions, and if I have to do any of that stuff traditionally, it would just take me forever. So it's nice to, just open up Photoshop and copy and paste something and put it here, put an adjustment level, just to change the color on something. It just makes the process so much quicker. So.
Yeah, I think my number one thing I'm trying to think of three. The number one thing for me with animation is good reference, like understanding my subject and the motion that I have to take on or how I'm going to exaggerate it. Understanding the subject matter before I begin to even start to lay down keys is important, super important for me. And I definitely always show if I'm working home, I like to show my wife because she'll see stuff, especially things that are natural. The layman can pick out something that's not correct because, especially like a walk, you see it every day. And any human can look at it like, that looks, what is that? So it's, to me, number one is reference.
Me, I need Netflix, I need Hulu. I'm just kidding. No, but for real, I need time, right? I need peace of mind, and I just need and music. Those are three things that I always need to have to start my day. In terms of programs, I really only use Photoshop right now. That's my just regular day in program, and just a Cintiq, I guess. That's what I work in for animation work.
Yeah, I think I can't work a day without listening to music. I have to listen to music at least the majority of the day. But I usually work on my Cintiq for work, but personally, I like working on my iPad because, one, my hand, but also, two, I think the iPad's more fluent. And I actually do most of my non-animation work on my iPad. And, I think, because I'm so used to using it that it's kind of can't really tell which is, iPad work, which is, Photoshop work and stuff. Also, I think it's good to have multiple screens just to have reference pulled up, and also just, just to look at something else, if you need to check your emails and stuff, as opposed to just having one screen, because it's going to be a hot mess if you just have one screen to work on.
That's how it used to be.
Yeah, I'm similar. I have my Cintiq and my desktop and my planner just so I can keep track of all my projects. And also I learned the hard way, it's good to invest in a setup that's not going to cramp up your body, because in finals I had a smaller setup because COVID, so I couldn't go into the lab at school, and it was so bad that I had to lie down every 15 minutes because my back and my arm hurt so bad. So if you need a Cintiq to avoid that, I would invest in one if you can.
Cool. So we're gonna, sorry, did someone else have another comment to add? Okay. I just want to switch gears because we all know that there's an obvious lack of representation in this field. And so that's something that I really want to spend some time on, because there are not a lot of women in this field, and there aren't a lot of people of color in this field. And so when we talk about how to increase representation, if you are an aspiring animator who's a woman or a POC, it can feel debilitating, if we can be honest. So let me start here. There's an obvious lack of representation. Why do you think that is? And I want everyone on this Zoom call to understand why representation is so important, because what I've seen happen in my professional experience is that they feel debilitated and they give up, and they're just like, no one's gonna give me a chance, or I don't even know where to start anyway, and they end up pursuing other things, and that's part of the pipeline problem. So because we obviously have a super diverse panel today intentionally, I just want to speak to why there's an obvious lack of representation, and then what inspiring tips for empowerment can you give animators who may be women or POC who want to thrive in this field?
I would say, go ahead.
Go ahead. Ladies first.
I would say part of it is that the animation industry and media is a friends club. Get a degree right now. We Abelle and I talked a lot. We were trying to break in earlier this year. It's really frustrating because you can have all the connections, you can have the best portfolio, and you get nothing because there's always someone who knows someone who has more experience than you, which is just part of the reality right now. It's unfortunate. But the problem with the Friends Club is that, I mean, if you're white and you only know white people, you're gonna only recommend like a very narrow margin of people, right? So like we need more people who are people of color, LGBT, other minorities in the industry so that we can lift each other up, which I think
What
is
does that even say?
I don't know. What was that? A question?
I'm not sure, I didn't hear.
I'm gonna chime in a little bit too because I've been in the industry for a while, and the people of color in the industry, I feel like there is a big change happening right now. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, and when I started, I was at MTV Animation, and I don't know if it's because that was New York, but it was very mixed and very diverse. All races, gay, straight, everything. I never felt like there wasn't I never felt like there wasn't representation, but that was that studio and that was a specific place and time. I know things are very different out here and all that, but I do feel like that's all changing, I don't know why, kind of based on what Flora is saying, the friendship thing, the friend club, I think that also has to do with your alma mater, right? You'll tend to find out if you go to work at a show or at a studio, there'll be like a heavy Cal Arts presence there. And it's because a producer or a showrunner is from Cal Arts and they're going back to their school to look out. It's what anybody does that goes to a school, right? It just so happens that the kids that go to that school will be predominantly Asian or white or male, you know what I mean? That necessarily, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily, like you could say that's systemic on some level, right? But just on the surface of just looking at the industry, they're just looking out for who's coming from their school, from their alma mater, right? I think that in recently, seeing the success in movies, right? In all Marvel movies and all, in general, what we do is sort of like what we do is considered sort of like a niche, geeky sort of thing, right? It's hard for a parent or a son of a first-generation immigrant to understand this as a livelihood and as a career. It's hard for you as a kid wanting to do this to pitch it to your parents. The first person who's going to talk you out of it is your parents. So you don't even get past that level, So it's hard for them to understand this as a career. Whereas like someone who's not an immigrant, whose parents have been here, they know what Disney is and they know what other things are and they can understand it. They could put it in context, Whereas if you're fresh into this country, you no one understands it, right? So what I think is happening is basically, for lack of a better term, geek culture has become just regular society culture right now. And everybody loves the stuff. It's so successful. It's very visible to a person who doesn't understand the art form that, this equals, look how much money all this Marvel stuff made. And look, Spider-Verse is so successful and Black Panther. And like, of course, now a little kid that's Hispanic or Black can be like, that's what I want to be. And the parent who doesn't know anything about animation could be like, all right, cool. That's a winner. Everybody knows how much money that thing makes and it's a success. And I can tell my friends about it. But prior to that, it was hard to convince that. So now when you go to like a comic convention and you go to Artist Alley, there's a lot of people of color there. Whereas like 20 years ago, there wasn't, So now you see a reflection there and you see it in the shows that are being greenlit, production houses, people like Lena Waithe are creating awesome things. And it's just like, that is like a new wave. And we're like in that evolution that it's like, I feel like it's happening right now as a person who's been in the industry for a while. I feel like I see the change happening. You know what I mean? Working at Cartoon Network, I see there's a large female base there. LGBTQ is very prominent there and everybody respects it. And it's like, you see a lot of diversity there. You know what I mean? And I think you're starting to see that in their programming and their shows and all around. I think everybody's paying attention, So I think that is we're in the middle of it changing and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I was gonna say the thing with Disney when I was there, it was just to give I don't say hope, but it's like the best designers at Disney when I was there and still were women. And that was like a lot of women there were they're just the best designers besides like Jen Kim and some of the other veterans that were there. Cartoon Network, there's a lot of women there that are like really good. As far as the people of color, I think also there's a bigger issue, which is access to
yeah.
software, the computers. It's the financial means of having something to where, hey, I can go get a computer and it's affordable. I can access the software, and the software is now free. So to me, it's access to these things, and that goes into the schools as well. The schools need to give those kids access so they can see as possible, because somebody has to be the gateway to let you know that this is a viable thing for you.
Yeah.
Besides, hey, but there's clearly there's money somewhere because most kids will have an Xbox or a PlayStation, and now you can get a computer for pretty much that price that can run a lot of that software. So to me, and I think, you hit it right on the head. For many generations, right, to being a person of color and trying to go into an art field is like, nope, because African Americans, Latino, you were playing catch up when you come into America. There's no way you're going to go into art. You become a lawyer, doctor, engineer, because our people are behind and you have to catch up to the game. And that is one of the big reasons why there's not that many people of color in the industry, because there's that barrier, which I get, I'm sure that's why my mom looked at me sideways when I said I was going to switch majors, because you need to excel past and start bringing other people with you. Animation is a subculture. It's a white man subculture. A white man with money had time to go play around with a clay dinosaur and Gertie the dinosaur. Like they had money to do that. Mom, I want to go start Disney. I want to try something. I'm gonna make a mouse walk. It's like we were trying to get freedom. It's like I'm trying to get equal rights. Nobody had time to deal with that stuff. The Latinos like coming here, like I want to come and chase the American dream and bring my family over here as well. It's like, so as far as getting more people in there, I think it's just access. And Kano said, I think we're right in the mix of. I know the conversation keeps coming up, but the revolution and the evolution has already started, with things like this and how the internet is so accessible. People can see, and parents know, like you said, Kano, they know how much money this thing makes. People of color are like the biggest consumer of media. We all know are the biggest consumer of media. It was like $3 billion, $3.6 billion of black dollars go to television and movies. I think that it's coming more to fruition. And the big thing, I'm gonna keep hitting on this. If you really want to see that change, it's like stop waiting to get into a studio and start making your own content. It's exactly, and the thing I'm working on now is the mantra that I've seen all these young kids that want to become musicians and rappers. It's like you can't even get a record deal if you don't have an album on YouTube. You have to have something out to even break into the industry. That's the vehicle you guys should be looking at. It's like I've seen stuff made by kids like that looks like it's Pixar quality. Only thing they have over you is they got a bunch of engineers and TDs that can keep advancing the rendering software, but you can get pretty close to, if you got the chops, you can get pretty close to looking like a feature film nowadays. There's nothing stopping. You can get pretty close to having a good quality video game that people like. It doesn't have to be Call of Duty. It doesn't have to have like a high res. A good game is a good game, right? A good side scroll is a good side scroll. It's the content and how you draw the person into it.
Love it.
Don't wait.
For the sake of times, I want to make sure that we have an opportunity for you guys to ask questions. We're going to move on to the samples of work, because I know you guys are probably, I saw some questions coming through, like, can we see their work? Can we see their work? So we want to make sure that we dedicate some time so you can see all of the cool projects that they've worked on. And I'm just asking the panelists to keep it to 2 minutes and under. But what I really want to do here is obviously show the work. But if you could just very briefly, before you show your work, state your why. Because I think as a creative, because we're creating such important work, it's very important to know your why. Why are you doing this? Because that's, to Kano's point, is going to keep you going when you don't have work. You have to revert back to why you were there in the first place, why you decided to be an artist in the first place. So if each of our panelists could just very briefly state their why, and then show us the work that you worked on that you're really proud of, and just give a brief explanation. I'm just asking it to be 2 minutes so we can get to questions. And we'll kick it off with Flora.
Hi everyone. So my why, I briefly mentioned this earlier, but I went into college and my career with the intention of I don't want to give up social justice. And I mean, if I had to choose, I might have chosen sociology and just went into field work. But I realized that I can use my art and film specifically as a way to educate people and to lift people up. And I was inspired by this by watching a lot of indie film festivals, because it's starting to get better with big studios, but you see a lot of that in small films. So I realized I don't really care where I work as long as I can make my own content. And let's see, share.
Excuse me.
There we go. Okay. So this is from my short film Malinchista, which is a 2D animated short film reclaiming a Spanish slur to empower Latinx women, and going over the story of La Malinche from Mexican history and kind of reclaiming her past and showing through this girl in a modern setting who is also mixed like me, I'm half Mexican, to empower yourself, and that your voice matters and what you have to say matters. And if you want to watch it, it'll be in film festivals for another year. And this is a personal project I've done in the past couple months. It's based off of this sci-fi series that I love by Elizabeth Moon, The Bata Wars. And it's so great because there's this really strong woman person of color as the protagonist, and she becomes a badass throughout the series. And it's just so refreshing. And I think it's like, if Star Wars or something did something like this, I think it'd be so great, because it's so refreshing and there really isn't a lot of content like this. It's starting to get better, but yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
Oh.
Love it. We're gonna kick it over to Jamaal. Thank you, Flora.
All right, so share screen. So, yeah, so this is my personal film, Substance. Yes, I started writing this. I've always loved animation, right? My ideas were kind of like fantastic on the Disney magical side. As again, once I had a child and got married, life started going on, started looking at life through a different lens. My story became a little bit more serious. So this story is based on some true events. And yeah, so I did all this, still working full time. All this was done in my free hours. Got to work with some great people, Bruce Smith, Disney, Ken Birdwell's one of the EPs. He's one of the co-founders of Valve. Yeah, a lot of great people helped me make this project. Half-Life Alyx, again, Substance, Half-Life Alyx, worked on Boss Baby, Panda 3, Penguins, oh, bunch of stuff. Like in my sketchbook, I'm still, you can see like my artwork. Start to work on Crudes 2. No, that's still, but the movie changed, got canceled. So conceptualizing again, like I was saying, describing, finding how the characters move and look for the film. Still messing around with my own characters, one of the characters from Penguins. Always loved doing facial expressions. Again, to find the character and find the stuff for the model sheets and how we work out that stuff. So more artwork for Substance. Again, doing the same thing I would do in feature, but for my own project, finding the facial expressions and me drawing. I think I did this while I was at Disney, like stressing over something for Tangled. Actually, I think I was teaching at the time as well. That's what that paper says, grades. This was before the character changed on Penguins. He had a different look. Again, still find expressions. Another one of the characters from, yeah. So just so you can see some of my sketches. I'm not gonna play the whole thing. Again, this is me acting out the stuff for the G-Men Half-Life Alex. So again, me finding good reference. So even though I was in the mocap suit for facial expressions, I captured myself doing the dialogue. And then, so real quick, hold up. You got to see the screen. Just so you can see, I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I'll just play a little intro to walk. If you haven't seen the short film, it's online. You can go to my website and find it as well. And now you really wouldn't play, huh? Oh, there it is. So that's the intro to the short film. I did like 90% of the animation for the film. So it should, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Yes, so dope. Thank you, Jamaal.
Yep.
Abelle, let's do it.
Awesome. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so here's my website. Mostly illustrations. But yeah, I think for me, I think growing up was like, oh, I wish I had seen more Black female, like non-binary artists. So I was like, maybe I should become a Black non-binary artist and stuff. And like, I just wanted my work to kind of represent like my personality, like the world I love to see, like the colors of just like the world around me, also the people. I'm first generation Ghanaian, so I tried to use that to influence my style as well. Here's some character designs. Yeah, I really also like exploring like pop culture, and especially like African American pop culture and stuff. So a lot of my characters are reflected of my family and like friends and stuff. Yeah, and I also really love colors. I think that's like one thing I want to like emphasize, like the brightness and like vibrancy around me. Yeah, I can't show, most of my professional work is NDA, so I can't really show it. But I also do some comic work. Before in college, I would go to small press conventions and sell like zines and like comics. Mostly focus on like more like interpersonal stories about like mental health and like just like this like escapism and stuff. So yeah. I also had like, this is like my mini thesis for my senior year, where I made like a little book about art school students. I probably want to pitch it one day, which is like just like a small zine about like my experience in art school and like the fun and also the struggles with it. Yeah.
Awesome.
I love this. And also, before we get to the last two panelists, for all of the panelists, if you have links to your work or an Instagram that they can all plug into and check out and support you. I saw people were like pubbing, you know, Abelle's and Flora's and Jamaal's work. So yes, if you have links to your gallery portfolio, external links, Vimeo, whatever you have, if you could drop it in the chat so the attendees can plug in and support you, that would be great. Wendell, you're up.
Sure. Let's see. Let me share my screen here. All right. Oop, my computer froze. Can you guys still hear me, see me?
We can hear you. It just says screen sharing.
Oh, my computer is like frozen. But to answer your question, my why, I think my why is, I'm still fairly early on in my career. I've only been working for 6 years. Oh, here we go. And so, can you guys see my screen now? Sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can see it.
Okay.
Great. Well, my why, I feel like it's constantly changing. Early on, like in college when I was still learning this stuff, my why was really just to improve and get better. And because if you see some of my early college work, it was terrible. It was really awful. I did not know how to draw. I had to go to figure drawing 4 times a week. I didn't know anything about painting or color. So my why was really just as a self-improvement thing, to get better at this art thing. But you know, as I've grown and as I've worked on a few more projects, my why has really been more of like, this is something I'm good at. This is something that I can support myself and my family with. And I love that that feeling of accomplishment when you go to the movie theater and I see my name at the end credits. It just, after doing years, because these movies take years and years of work. And just, you know, you put in years, day in, day out. And then finally you take your family to the movie theater and you watch the movie in its entirety and you see your name there at the end. And that's just a great feeling for me. And the fact that, you know, I was able to support my family doing that, that's my why, really. So this is just some of the work that I've done over the years at Sony. Kind of a lot of Spider-Verse paintings, some Smurf paintings were in there, emoji paintings. Oh, we do so many paintings on this in film. So and a lot of things end up getting cut. So this was like a scene in Spider-Verse. There was like a big fight scene with all the villains and all the Spider-Men, and it ended up getting cut, which was, you know, it would have been a really fun scene, but I think it was better for the story for it to get cut. But yeah, that's it. There you go.
Thank you. Oh, they are loving you guys in the chat. So if you guys aren't reading the chat, you should read it. And last but not least, Kano, are we good? You're up. You're on mute though, we can't hear you.
All right.
There we go.
Yeah, I think we're good. We'll see, I guess. All right, let me get that set up. All right, share. What's that? I thought I had this. Oh, okay, here we go. So boom. Let's share this one first. Nothing. Can you guys see anything?
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird because I can't see it. Oh, okay, okay. All right, I got it. So, so the why for me, right? Just a little quick background on me. I started. I'm from New York City. I started getting into art because of graffiti, right? So then it was time to make a living off of that. So I went to school for animation, and my why has always been, this is the work I'm most proud of. The stuff that goes on the screen, that goes on the TV, that's been a career for me. That's been awesome. I've been doing it for a while. And I'm proud of it because it does provide a living for me and my family. But then the work I'm most proud of is my own work. And this is just me going back to my roots as a painter, as an illustrator, as a graffiti artist, and trying to come full circle and trying to create a brand for myself. So these are some paintings that I'm proud of. This is where I get to break the rules that I've learned through animation and kind of just do my own world, my own style. And I get to hit the streets with this stuff too. So I'm very proud of murals because they're out of my comfort zone, and I really get to push myself as an artist. Working in a medium of spray paint is challenging, and I'm always learning new things with it. Every once in a while, my worlds cross over where I get to do a mural for Teen Titans through Warner Brothers, and sometimes I get flown out to Japan to paint like a mural. Not sometimes, that only happened once. I'd like to think sometimes. It was pretty dope, and it was an experience that I also got to travel with my family. And so all of these things are just things I'm very proud of, things that balance me out when I'm doing animation at the studio. This is my other world that's like, I'm a Libra, so it all has to balance out for me. And then I get to work with companies like Marvel and Sideshow with these toys that I have coming out. And these are my own interpretations. It's pretty much Sideshow and Unruly reaching out to me to create toys of my interpretation of their heroes, which is awesome because it's like, it's what I want to do, you know? So that's like my, sorry about that. This is like my Peter Parker, modern day Peter Parker, if he was really from New York, you know, this and that. So Yeah, that's it. That's just more about me. You can go to kanokid.com to look at more of my stuff. And, you know, just I try to do everything, man. I try to do animation, toys, murals, graphics. At the end of the day, I just want to make a living off of just being an artist, you know? So I'm doing that. So my job is done and I'm pretty happy with that.
Yes, I love it. This is so dope. Like, all of you guys are just so dope. And I think the whole attendee universe can agree that you guys are incredible. So thank you so much for taking the time to show that work. So we have about 15 to 20 minutes for Q&A. Now I'm opening the floor. So if you sent a question before now, I'm not gonna get to it. So message me privately with your questions now, and we can ask the panelists. If it's directed towards one panelist, if you can specify that, that would be great. And I'm just asking the panelists if we can limit it to 1 to 2 responses so we can get through as many questions as possible. So again, message me privately. Okay, we have, when interning, unpaid or unemployed, how did you make money to survive during that time? Would you work small, typical jobs like grocery store and such? How did you survive while freelancing without a job?
So I was interning straight out of high school, and I kind of only had to rely on my internship money, but fortunately enough, I was lucky enough I had friends and family who lived in LA at the time, so like I only had to pay for food and just like sometimes rent. What the next few years I had some freelance coming in, so I had to pay I had that income, also my internship income, which is like, it was paid, but it was like not even minimum wage. So like it is like a push and pull. It's nice to have like a savings beforehand, especially. And I think it's a good advantage if you are in California, stay in California, because I was from out of state. I had to fly in, fly out like all 4 years. So like I had to save some money and also like rely on my parents to help me too. And also I was paying, not only was I paying like when I did have to live on my own in LA, I had to pay LA's rent, but I also had to pay Baltimore's rent. So I was fortunate enough I had freelance in a way, and also like my mom's support, because it's not cheap. It's like, it is an investment, and is a big investment to do an internship.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna move on to the next question. Thank you, Abel. What resources do you have for learning how to negotiate rates or keep yourself competitive and able to pay your bills? What resources do you have for learning how to negotiate rates or keeping yourself competitive?
I would ask around. Oh, sorry, Kano, go ahead.
Okay, with negotiating for rates, that comes with experience, to be honest. I didn't learn to do that till like I took a couple of losses and I felt underpaid. And then, you know, as you keep working, you just meet other people in the industry and older people that you can talk to and see how much you should be getting paid. Sometimes those books that are out about, you know, the marketplace, sometimes those are not all, those don't reflect every small studio. So, but going into this, man, like if you unless you're going to like straight to, if you're an amazing talent, if you go straight to feature or a big company, if you're going to a new studio, don't think like you're gonna buy a new car, bro. Like you're not gonna make that much money at all. It might not be that much of a financial difference. That's not what this game is for, you know. You gotta build it up, you know what I mean? And that's just, sometimes you'll find out the hard way that you're getting paid less than somebody you're training. You know, it's just like, yo, what's going on? But you have to know that comes with work, with later. And there's no way around it. You're gonna get, this sucks to say, but you're gonna get taken advantage of you. Like if you're going in a small studio, that's a price you pay to get your foot in the door. Sucks, but doesn't happen for everybody. But for the majority, that's just the L you gotta take, man. That's the loss. But it's, yeah.
Yeah, similar to that, I would ask around people you trust that have a lot of experience in freelancing contract. Ask what they ask for and how they negotiate. That's how I learned really quickly this year. And I usually look at the union rate and go off of that. But if the project just doesn't have the budget, then I'll scale down depending.
Perfect, thank you. Next question. What are the top 3 technical and human skills a new artist should have?
Shari, real quick. I just want to say, I have a meeting I have to go to right now. before, I just want to say thank you for having me, and thank you for everybody for asking the questions. So we appreciate you. I do appreciate you. Keep grinding and don't get discouraged. There's going to be a lot of sacrifices in the journey, but it'll be worth it in the end, I promise.
Thank you so much, Jamaal. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'll just repeat the question. What are the top 3 technical and human skills a new artist should have?
I think technical skills would be, you know, really good foundation skills, like good anatomy, perspective, and color. Human skills, just be friendly, you know, be a cool person to work with, be someone that people want to work with. Just, you know, that's about it. I think those.
On the human skills, learn eye contact. If you're talking to the director or people at work or producer, just look at people in their eyes when you're talking to them. If your supervisor or someone's talking to you about your work, and they're just sitting in your office and looking over your work, pay attention. Stop looking at your phone. Turn your phone over. That's a big problem with young kids coming in. Like, they're like, you're talking to them and they're thinking of other stuff. It's like, yo, you got to focus, because to your boss, it's looking like you don't give a crap. And like, you can't have people like that on production. So pay attention. You're there to learn. You're not there to floss how good you are. You're there to like try to be reliable, try to get things done on time, and just try to be professional. You are a professional now once you step in there. You know, there is no, you know, you're not at school anymore. No one's going to give you the curve that you're a kid. It's like, yo, get on your P's and Q's, man. Just deliver, pay attention, and have respect for your directors and yourself.
I love that. Thank you, Kano.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best advice for someone who is aspiring to have a career in the animation industry, but is not currently at a college or school of the arts?
There's lots of resources. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Flora. I would definitely take online classes. There's so many online classes. You got Concept Design Academy, you got Brainstorm. Literally, I took my first like online art class that was in art school. I feel like I learned more from them than I have learned my 4 years at college. So, and it's like it's like more cost effective, and like you're working with people who usually are teaching these classes are industry professionals, so they know what's what's the new updates of the industry and stuff, and like what's the ins and out. So definitely invest in taking online classes. Also, there's so many free online sources. So like looking up YouTube, like a lot of artists are sharing their experience online. So like even like from when I was in high school and like now, like there's been such an influx of like accessibilities of resources, and just like people want to help others get into the industry. So I would definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah, and going off of that, when students ask me where they should go to school, I always say, do your research, like colleges, private schools versus, you know, Cal State, and then online resources, because it's a really personal choice. Like, I worked 3 jobs at the same time while going through school, and I took a lot of loans because I paid most of my way by myself. And I'm gonna have to pay that off for a long time. So it really depends. Like, do you want more of the college experience? Do you want a university that has other classes besides art? Because I was really interested in sociology. And what can you afford to? Because it is really expensive.
Thank you. This next question says, what do companies look for in a portfolio? I have one professor saying I should show a lot of schoolwork and technical work, such as life studies, but then I have another professor saying that studios are looking for style. Which is better?
I think they both have their benefits. You know, showing the life drawing work, showing the schoolwork, that shows your technical proficiency and, you know, anatomy and like those skills I was saying earlier. Style, I think it's important that as an artist you have your own voice and your own kind of look, and that your work stands out. But to me it's not as important. If I can see that someone has really great foundation skills, I can kind of once they're on the team and I know they're more of a junior artist, I can guide them to the look that I'm going for. But I do think it's important that your work stands out. So if you have a few like wow pieces, you should definitely throw those in there.
Yeah, the portfolio thing, I have to say, like, I've been in the industry for a long time, and it's still something that, like, I feel like it's still a puzzle sometimes, you know what I mean? You're constantly trying to figure it out. Times change, studios change. But I think what your teacher is saying is, what at least what I've experienced coming out of school was, to a certain extent, when studios look at school portfolios, they all look academically the same. So your style is the only thing that'll make it pop out and draw some attention to it. Like, you take the top 10 portfolios from like schools or like the top portfolios from like your school, and you'll be like, oh, okay, they look like they all had the same instructor, they all have the same pieces in the same place, and it's repetitive. As a person reviewing portfolios, you're just like, all right, next, I saw that technique 3 books ago, next, you know what I mean? So if you have something that makes you stick out, then you get put on a separate pile. Like, okay, let's go back to this guy and let's keep reviewing stuff. So I think that's the logic of it, and it makes sense to me why they want to mix. It's a little bit confusing because you want to go all in and show all the best of your academic stuff or the best of your personal stuff, but I think it has to be a mix to make you stand out from the crowd, you know? It's just like an internship, you know? When you intern there with like 5 different people, you know what I mean? You have to, at the end of that internship, your mission should be, they should remember my name somehow by your attitude, the work that you put in. Like, if you just did your internship just to get the school credit and they don't remember you, then you kind of didn't do your job right, you know? But yeah, that's all.
I have another question that says, what's one of the most effective ways to network as an artist?
Be nice to everyone you meet, whether it's like the janitor or the cooks that work at the studio, whether it's someone who's in the elevator, doesn't work on your floor. Just be a good person. Honestly, I gave a networking lecture at my university last year, and my biggest advice was just like, treat everyone like you want to be their friend, and try to block out the thoughts of like, oh, this person can get me a job, or like, oh, like I want to make a connection with this person because maybe I want to work here. Try to block that out and just see them as a human being. And that itself, if you make that intention, makes you stand out so much, whether you're just like saying hi or smiling or just like asking that person how their day is going. It's a really big difference.
Also, like, it's important to like not like have an online presence, but at least use online networking to your advantage. Like personally, social media has helped me a lot with just like with freelance and also in-house, but also there's a lot of like groups, like Discord groups, like This Black and Animated, which is such a great tool to network with other professional artists in the industry. And also they also show job postings and stuff, and like if you built like a good connection with these people, like they'll know you and like they would recommend you for other jobs and also just like opportunities and stuff, you know. So it's like being like, yeah, be genuinely nice both online and offline.
Okay, I have time for about a couple more questions before we wrap. This person asks, do you ever have a point in time where you're doubtful of your talent or you have a creative block, and how do you overcome that?
Every time. Every time I start a new project. I don't know. I think that for me, it's just something that comes natural. Whenever I start a new assignment, I go through this phase of like, oh, this is crappy. This is crappy. This looks like shit. This is the worst thing I've ever done. And I think over time, you kind of just, as you keep working at it, you just learn to overcome it, you know, and you get to a moment where things start making sense and it starts to come together. And then you go back through that cycle all over again. So it's kind of just like learning to overcome that hurdle, that bump of like your work isn't that, it's not like quite hitting the mark. Because you know, if you keep trying to actively make it better, make yourself better, then eventually you'll overcome that hill.
Perfect. So I guess this last one is like part question, part statement, but with these events, we obviously want you guys to leave with more information than when you came, but we also want you to leave with tangible resources and action items. So I just want to reiterate, if our panels, and I know some of you guys mentioned, like Abel, you mentioned the Concept Design Academy, et cetera. If you know of any resources, job portals, websites, free software, programs, events that they can plug into, I want to make sure that everyone in attendance today just doesn't leave with a lot of information, but they actually have tangible, actionable resources that they can plug into. I'm asking our panelists to throw them in the chat because we are encouraging attendees to save the chat. So if you have anything from links, portals, job sites, internship information, free software that should be plugged into, anything that you know of that would help them in their creative pursuits, if you can just drop that in the chat right now, that would be extremely helpful. And that being said, we're a little over our time, but I just want to thank everyone our panelists first and foremost, for taking time out of their busy schedules to drop the gems and nuggets. This is an amazing group. I think we all can agree. I thank you guys so much for attending. Do not forget to download PipelinesMobile in your app stores. It's a free app for you guys to connect to job and training opportunities in tech, entertainment, and creative. And also follow Move Together on Instagram. It's going to be a free program launching in March that will pair you with a mentor and an internship in these creative industries, along with exclusive workshops. And don't forget to check out CSUEA's LinkedIn page, their website, to stay up to date with these bi-weekly series that we're doing. I think we have one more in the next 2 weeks, and then we're going to resume back in January. But I just want to thank you all for tuning in. I hope it was helpful. Feel free to DM us or hit us up with feedback on how we can make these better. And just a huge thank you, and keep creating, okay? Because we need your voice. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kano.
Well, who's there? Who's talking to me?
Linnell.
Hold on. I don't even know how to use this thing. Were you there the whole time?
Yes, I was gonna text you. I was just fly on the wall, man. Fly on the wall.
Yeah.
No, this is really good. This is really good stuff, dude.
It was yeah, it was cool. It's like not, and it like usually some